Good morning, scholars. Today we're going to begin our exposition of Book 2 of the Iliad, looking at lines 1 through 15. Here, Zeus sends the destructive dream to Agamemnon. Now, the transition between Book 1 and 2 is one of the most elegant, I think, of the poem. And to appreciate that, we need to look back at the ending of Book 1. So just as they do in those HBO specials, our previous episode, looking back, we'll look at those final lines. Alta epe katedu lampron paos he elioio. Hoi men kakeon teseban, voi konde wekastos. Heiki wekastoi doma, periklutos ambigues, hepaistos poiesen, vidui esepra pedese. Zeus de pros hondakos eie, Olympios asteropetes, intaparos koimat hotemen, glucus hypnos hikanoi. Intakatiud anabas, para de crusothronos heire. So we saw at this ending of Book 1 how the sun goes down on Olympus and all the gods depart to their various individual residences, and to end the hostilities, the domestic hostilities between Zeus and Hera, we see Zeus climbing into bed and Hera beside him and them going to sleep like couples do. Now, what we don't see is, as I said earlier, we don't see Hera actually soothing Zeus with malakoisi repese, with soothing words. But we can be assured that that happened. It's just something that the poet does not feel the need to show. He's told you that's going to happen in Hephaestus' speech. So there's no reason to doubt that did happen, and that they did not go to sleep angry. However, we will see that Zeus is not altogether an honest dealer, or I shouldn't say that, because he's just going to do what he's going to do, and he's already made that plain to Hera. But nevertheless, we have Book 1 ending with this sleep across Olympus, everyone in bed, and the day has ended. So how does Book 2 begin? Aloi menra de oi dekai aneres hypokorustai, hu don panukioi. Dia dukeke nedumos hupnos, ala ho ge merisde katafrena, hos akile a dimese, ole se de pole as, epeneusen akaion. So we see that though all the gods and men, de oi tekai aneres hippokurostai, hudon panukioi, they sleep through the night. Dia duke eke nedumos hupnos. Zeus, however, does not sleep through the night, but thinks of how he shall do what he's promised Hera, what he's promised Thetis, he will do for Achilles. So the passage continues. Heide hoi kata dumon, ariste baineto boule. Pimp sai ep atreide agamem noni u lononeron. Kaimen bone sas, wepea deroenta proseuda. Basque ite ule onere, do as epeneas akaion. El don es clisien, agamem nonos atreidao. Panta mal atreke os, ago u emen hosepetelo. Dorek sai hekelu care como ontas akaius. Pan sudie. Nun ga ken eloi bolin eruaguianthroon. Uga et ampis Olympia domate conte satanatoi fras dontai. Napsen gahapantas he relisomene. Tro esse de kede bape die. So the analysis of the grammar and presentation of the vocabulary is reserved for my Patreon followers. And if you'd like to continue to grow your Greek through the analysis of these passages, please do consult the link in the description and become a Patreon financial supporter of this effort. It's a mere $4 a month minimum to do so, although I do appreciate my more generous supporters very much. Okay. Aloi menra de oi te kai aneres hypokorustai, hudon panukioi, dia du keke ne dumos hupnos. So hypokorustes, this is a new epithet which is used for both heroes and peoples, and it means a marshaller of horses, and its main element is the verb koruso, to set in array. So hypokorustai. And then pan nukios, you can easily analyze the pan and nuktos, pan nukios, all night long. And then nedumos is an epithet of sleep, hupnos, sweet, refreshing, or pleasant. And Cunliffe tells us that no doubt nedumos arises from wedumos equals hedus, with the adhesion of final nu, which is transferred from a preceding word. So, aloi menrate oi, te kai aneres hypokorustai, hudon panukioi, dia dukeke ne dumos hupnos. Al hoge meris de kataphrena, hos agilea. So, memerizdo is to ponder, and one ponders how, so we see the hos coming up. But this is a good example or good instance to review our notion of the interrogative sentences, that is questions. And so Smythe 2636 tells us that questions are either direct, that is independent, or indirect, dependent. Thus, if you say straightforward, tis elexe tauta, who said this, you're actually asking a direct or independent question. Whereas if you have the example, eroto hostis elexe tauta, I asked who said this, the hostis elexe tauta, whoever said this, is an indirect or dependent question. So here, our dependent question is introduced by the hos, and we will see that, quoting Smythe 2662, the moods used in direct questions are the same as those used in statements. So what we're going to see here, after the hos, the construction will be that of the deliberative subjunctive. And deliberative questions asked what is to be done or what was to be done. So, al hoge me merizde kata frena, hos akile a, ti me se olese de pole as epi neusen agaion. So, ti me se, or the alternative form of our text, ti me se, other editors will elide that final epsilon of the ti me se form, and however one presents it. This is the aorist subjunctive, first aorist subjunctive of ti mao. Likewise, olese is the first aorist subjunctive of olume. And here, as I said, we have a deliberate subjunctive. And so Smythe, 1805, the deliberative subjunctive, present or aorist, is used in question when the speaker asks what he is to do or say. The negative is me. And so, as we've already said, the moods used in direct questions are the same as those used in statements. And here we have the deliberative subjunctive, al hoge me merizde kate frena, hos akile a ti me se, ole se de poleas, epineus en agaion. Hede de hoi kata tu mon, ariste baneto boule. So here we have binomai, to appear or seem to be so-and-so. And this is a very important word that gets used alternatively with a complementary infinitive or with a complementary participle, and with slightly different meaning. So looking at Smythe 2143, binomai with the participle means I am plainly, whereas with the infinitive, in indirect discourse, it means it seems, it appears, but may not be true that I. Okay, so there's a difference between obviousness and apparentness with the suspicion that the thing is actually not true. So you have obviousness generally portrayed by the participle, and the questionable appearance portrayed or carried by the infinitive. So thus in these examples, painetai talete legon, we see the participle legon, so we translate this, he is evidently speaking the truth. However, when we insert the infinitive, painetai talete legain, we have he appears to be speaking the truth, but he may actually be lying, is what's understood by the weakness of the infinitive. So an example from Xenophon's Symposium, te bone clai ein epaineto. And Smythe is able to render this by his voice, dative of means, it appeared he was weeping, but clai ein being an infinitive, but as a matter of fact, he was not weeping. So this is an important distinction to keep in mind, but it's equally important to keep in mind, as Smythe tells us in the last bit of this passage, that this distinction is, however, not always maintained. Okay? So this is a very good example of the fact that, as I heard once and is very true, in language there are tendencies, not rules. So painomai with the participle tends to mean I am plainly, whereas painomai with the infinitive tends to mean it seems or it may be. Now, we also have to be aware of the fact that when you do have the participial construction, reading Smythe 2119, on may be omitted after verbs taking a supplementary participle. So, with verbs meaning to perceive, to know, to show, announce, to find, and discover, but especially with painomai, tunkanomai, diatello, diagignomai, and then others you can consult. But the point here is that with painomai, you often have a omission of the participle, which is what has to be going on here, because we most certainly know that Zeus's action and plans are unerring. So, Heda de hoi katatumon ariste paneto boule. We have to supply the participle here, which has been omitted. Hede de hoi katatumon ariste paneto boule. Pimp sai ep atre ide agamemnoni ulon oneron. So, pimpsai is here the aorist infinitive of pimpo, first aorist infinitive, and ulos is destructive or baneful, and it's cognate with aulos, according to Cunliffe. So, very closely related to olume, that same verbal stem used to create a adjective, ulos, destructive, and oneros, oneros is a dream. Now, it's noteworthy that certain editors will capitalize the omicron of oneron so as to make it more personal that he sent dream, i.e. the god dream. And of course, oneros does occur in Hesiod as a divine figure, and one can, of course, and I think if I was presenting a text, I would capitalize the omicron because I enjoy accenting the divine machinery. And so one can consider in themselves what are the literary and rhetorical effects of either capitalizing or failing to capitalize the omicron of oneron. That is, whether you personify dream or whether you do not. So, pimp sai ep atre ide agamemnoni ulon oneron. Kai men pone sas, wepea teroenta proseuda. Basque ete ule onere, do as epineas agaion. So the first bit is pretty straightforward. Then we have basque ite, which is kind of an emphatic order. Come, go, calling him up and telling him to go. Basque ite. And ule onere, of course, is vocative. And again, those editors who capitalize the omicron continue to do so here. Basque ite ole onere do asepinea sakayon. Elton es glycien agamemnonos atre idao banta mal atreke os agor e uamen hos epetelo. So, atrakeos is exactly, precisely, and with agora uemen, we have the infinitive serving as an imperative, and as we've seen in our examples from Book 1, this usually happens or is often facilitated by an environment that contains imperative ideas, as in our Basque ite. So the agora uemen is easy to interpret as the imperative, and hos epitelo, the hos picks up the atrekeos, speak to him exactly as I am going to command you, as I am ordering you. So, panta mal atrake os, agor euamen hosepetelo. Dorexai, hekelu kare como ontasakaius. So, dorexai is an aorist infinitive active from doreso, to cause, to arm for battle. Kaleuo plus the infinitive means to command or bid someone to do X. And so here, dorexai is the content of the command. Dorexai hekaleue kare como ontas akaius. So kare como ontas is an epithet of the Achaeans, based on the idea of komao, or the verb komao, and you see it in kome, hair, and komao is to have abundant hair, to wear one's hair long. And this formulation is found only in the present participle, in the accusative, dual, and nominative, and the accusative plural. And so we see como onte, como ontes, como ontas. And in this construction, the kare is an accusative of respect. So kare como ontas akaius. We're going to see this numerous times. Dorexai hekeleue kare como ontas akaius. Pan sudie. Nun ga ken heloi polin euru agrian. So pan sudie is in full force, and our base notion is seuo, to move forward, and pan, so with full deployment. Ken heloi, consult Smythe 1824 and following. Uruaguia is an epithet of cities and means with wide streets. So dorexai hekeleue kare como ontas akaius. Pan sudie. Nun ga ken heloi polin euru aguian throon. Uga et ampis olympiadomate contes athanatoi frasdontai. Epe nam sen garhapantas. So the ampis frasdontai, it's widely separated by the olympiadomate contes athanatoi, but ampis frasdontai together amounts to have different views. So ampis is an adverb meaning apart or asunder. So we saw it in the epithet of Hephaestus, ampigues, for crooked-limbed Hephaestus, or limbs going off in different directions because of his fall. And epinampto is to bend, but here more particularly in psychological sense, to bring over to one's view. So nun ga ken heloi paulin eru aguianthroon. Uga et ampis olympiadomate contes athanatoi frasdontai. Epenam sen ga hapantas. He re lisomene. Troese de kede e peptai. So, we see here lisomene as the subject of Epegnapsen ga hapantas, or i.e. hampantas deus, all the gods, she has brought over to her view, because Hera, again, is the enemy of the Trojans, for reasons we'll go into as we slip further into the divine machinery. Although, of course, it all goes back to the myth of the golden apple, which you should read up on if you're not cognizant of it. But here, like I said, we have to imagine that Hera's sleeping and Zeus has snuck off to his office of divine management next to the bedroom and is laying out his plans here. And he's even telling a falsehood that Hera most certainly would not be happy to hear, that using her name to facilitate this attack against the Achaeans. Against the Trojans by the Achaeans. So, pro esede ke de epeptai, ke de neuter plural, is woes, sorrows, suffering. We've seen the verbal idea, kedomai, to be concerned about. But here we have kedea, which is in the plural. So woes, sorrows, suffering. And epapto, to fashion a bond. But in the passive, it takes on a figurative meaning with the dative that equals to be the lot of. So ke de epep dai plus the dative can be translated is impending inevitably over, or is the lot of. So woes are or have become the lot. We have this perfective, perfect in having present sense or present repercussions. Tro esi de ke de epep dai. Aloi men ra de oi de kai aneres hupokuros stai. Hu don panuki oi. Dia du keke ne dumas hupnos. Ala ho ke me meres de katefrena. Ho saki leia time se. Ole se de poleas. Epineusen akaion. Heide de hoi katatumon, aristain paineta boule. Pimpsai dep atre ide, agamem noni ulononeron. Kai men pone sas, wepea derointa proseuda. Basque ite ule onere, do as epineas akaion. Elton es glycien, agamem nonos atre idao. Panta mal atre ke os, ago emen hos epitelo. Dorexai hekeliu care como ontas acaius. Pan sudie, nun ga ke eloi, polen eru agri antro on. Uga et ampis olympiadomate contas, athanatoi frasdontai. Epe nam senga hapantas, he reliso mene. Tho esse de ke de epeptai. So there we have it, and here is a marvelous woodcutting of the dream appearing to Agamemnon. And I'm not an art historian, so I'm not going to attempt to explicate the iconography, but no doubt this is a marvelous early modern woodcut of this happening. And you seem to have the two figures, not just, I guess, it's very interesting. I guess is the figure that's reclining Zeus, and then the kind of sinister thing with the wings, is that the actual dream? I'm not sure what's going on here. But obviously the bigger figure has to be Agamemnon himself. Okay. Whatever. I will see you again soon. I hope you enjoyed the beginning of book 2. You'll see that because of our gains of book 1, we're able to move at a much better pace now. So continue to work hard and enjoy as we go forward with our treatment of the Iliad. Bye-bye. Have a good day.